Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan of Total Retail, and I am joined today by Conor Riley, who is the CEO of Luxie Beauty. We're going to talk today to Conor a little bit about Luxie Beauty, how it's pivoted a little bit in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, and a little bit about its future. So thanks for joining me, Conor.
Thank you, Joe. So happy to be here. Looking forward to sharing everything about the company.
So great. So let's get started then and have you tell us a little bit about Luxie Beauty for those that might not be familiar with the company.
So Luxie Beauty was conceived in 2014 by Tammy Wind, who was really struggling with her skin. She had very sensitive skin, couldn't rely on natural fibers, animal fibers, and was opposed to animal testing and really the cruelty involved in building makeup tools from those animal fibers. At that time, she was engineering and discovering how to use synthetic fibers to create high performance, high quality makeup tools. And that's really how Luxie got started. It became a solution of synthetic brushes that were able to perform. A lot of the synthetic fibers at that time were very abrasive to the skin and often would clump with certain makeup applications. So it took a lot of engineering to get the brushes to the quality level that we enjoy today. And when we reached sort of the perfect blend of softness, durability, easy to clean, the brand really just took off.
So you talked a little bit about the product there. How about distribution channels for the product? Obviously, the direct-to-consumer e-commerce site. Any other methods of distribution?
Well, it was actually kind of a hybrid approach at first. We participated heavily in sampling programs that are available. Definitely using different subscription sampling programs, Ipsy, BoxyCharm, Birchbox, and whatnot. So we were really focused on getting our product into the hands of the consumer. And then, like you mentioned, the D2C element just took off like wildfire. And then that allowed us to get better exposure into retailers and start doing seasonal placements in various retailers, which then became a toehold in those retailers to carry our product year round.
So then let's talk a little bit about kind of how you ended up at Luxie Beauty and kind of your professional background. You mentioned you didn't found the company. So tell us a little bit about your journey in getting to the company.
That's right. It's been a bit of a meandering road. My background is actually in finance. I come from venture capital, private equity, and investment banking. And throughout my finance career, I gravitated towards consumer product companies. I love the idea of making something real, of having a real impact on somebody's life, and working in kind of the physical world of, can you touch it, can you hold it? That really is exciting for me. So after a few successful transactions in the space, the founder of Luxie reached out to me and invited me to come on board, primarily as a financial advisor. And then she found that the company had kind of outgrown her skill set and no longer wanted to participate in the day-to-day, and invited me to come on board as the CEO, which I jumped at.
So you mentioned that you come from a finance background, and obviously you mentioned you had a little bit of an inclination and an attraction to the CPG space as well. So tell us a little bit about kind of the beauty space and what you find most interesting about it, and maybe a little bit about how it's evolved.
Well, I love beauty. It's such a fun place to work because you're basically providing the products that people are seeking out to feel better and to express themselves and to accentuate themselves and to cure themselves in some cases. And there's such a wide array of beauty products, everything from skincare to color, to eyelashes, it's an amazing space to work in. And I think that it's a broad enough space where everybody can find some fragment of it that they can play in. And I think one of the exciting things that Luxie was able to take advantage that really brought me to the company was it was able to kind of ride that wave of fast growth Instagram based branding. So when in 2014, 2015, and 2016, Luxie was growing exponentially, relying on influencers and these sort of sampling programs. I think that window has definitely closed at this point, with less and less engagement coming from the influencers. Instagram's changed their model a little bit, and I think that there's less trust from consumers in the recommendations from the influencers. Just they kind of have learned to tune them out, much like they tune out ads on TV or whatnot. So it was a combination of the right time for Luxie, the right time for me, that fast growth period that was really exciting, and then being able to leverage some of my previous career in stabilizing the company, stabilizing the financials, really building out a strong supply chain, and focusing on global retail growth. So it was really the perfect marriage, and beauty is such a fun space to work in.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you really enjoy making products that can really have a positive impact on your customers' lives. So let's talk then about those customers a little bit. Who is the Luxie Beauty customer, and tell us a little bit about her, or maybe him in some cases.
Yeah, we're a pretty inclusive brand, so we really try to create the best products for anybody who will use our products. The typical Luxie customer is generally between 25 and 40. That's actually been an increase in age over the last year. We've started to see our demographic creep up a little bit. They're usually young professionals or mid-range professionals that are kind of tired with the legacy products. They have enough money. They want to start buying premium brands. They're out of the drugstore now, looking at a premium product that's sort of at an accessible price point. They generally either are very advanced in their knowledge of how to use tools and require a wide array of tools for their various applications, or they really rely on us to pre-package products that make sense for them, so that they don't have to do the grunt work of doing the online research of all the different brushes that we offer. We have so many different SKUs. It really it can be a little daunting. So packaging them up makes it really easy for them. And at the end of the day, we find that we have a very loyal customer base. They often come back and will continue to repeat purchasing our products, which we love. We try to innovate. We've recently introduced sponges. We're revamping our Dreamcatcher line, which has sort of a more mature sensibility about it, and some unique brush heads that are going to allow for different application techniques. We're really excited about that. So our customers are, kind of on this path to discover who they are and express who they are, and we really try to encourage them in that journey of self-exploration, and provide the tools so that they can successfully discover who they are and express who they are, or who they want to be, or who they aspire to be. And that part of it is really fun too.
Yeah. So doing this podcast on a weekly basis, and I've asked this next question of all my guests over the last 3.5 or close to 4 months now at this point, and I'm going to kind of ask you as well, talk a little bit about the impact that COVID-19 has had on the Luxie Beauty business, and then kind of a second part to that is what changes, or how have you had to evolve to kind of account for that impact that it's had?
I would say that the last 2 weeks of March were really, really scary for us. We didn't know what would happen. All of our retail channels started closing. We knew that there were so many questions in the economy in terms of who's going to be buying product. Are people going to start, pulling tight the purse strings and not buying? Then in April, we started realizing that we had a lot more web traffic, and our online sales started to ramp up a little bit, and we ended April with a 5x increase over where we were pre-COVID. But then it started kind of slowing down again in May, and we realized that uncertainty in the economy was kind of very much on the forefront of our customers' mind. So we integrated Afterpay, which is a payment service that allows for payments over time. And I think that was a crucial pivot point for us, because we really try to engage with our customers. We want to be their partner on their beauty journey, and realizing that it's difficult to afford a 50, 60, 70, in some cases hundreds of dollars makeup set. And so we needed to figure out a solution for them, and we implemented Afterpay, and that's been a fantastic move for us. We're really happy with that. We've seen continued growth in our sales, which we attribute to both that and people spending a lot of time at home and doing some shopping. So I would say that the overall impact has been kind of shaky. I mean, obviously we lost retail, but for the e-com business, it's been gangbusters. And working to accommodate our customers in this uncertain time has really helped us continue that momentum.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the retail piece in a minute. But to your point, it's giving you the opportunity to kind of bolster that e-commerce business as well, which has been a positive to emerge. So let's talk then more from an industry-wide perspective when looking at the beauty category. What are some of the trends that you're seeing? And then, what are you doing at Luxie Beauty to kind of capitalize on those trends?
Well, the biggest trend in beauty right now is, how do you put together your face with wearing a mask? Everybody's wearing masks. So suddenly lipsticks, lip glosses, highlighting, contouring, all of these different trends get thrown out the window. No one wants to wear lipstick anymore. A sticky lip gloss, a dewy lip, that's just going to cause problems with your mask. It's going to rub, smear. Also, masks offer like a pretty large covering over your face. So if you're doing cheek looks, highlighting, contouring around the nose or chin, all of that is interrupted by the mask. So the biggest change in beauty is a continuation of lashes. I think lashes are going to be huge. We saw a 90% spike according to MPD last year, and we were anticipating that was going to go away. I think it's going to be here at least for the foreseeable future. We're seeing an increase in eye sets sold. We're seeing an increase in eye looks. Also, the skincare component, which was very strong last year, is continuing. So people are sort of stepping away from makeup and instead turning towards tinted moisturizers and other skincare pieces. So obviously, as a tool company, we're looking at creating products that will help with some of that skincare application. And we have a lot of eye sets and new eye sets that we're developing. And we are looking at getting involved in lashes and other kind of eye-related items as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I hadn't really thought about that, to your point about that everyone's, you're out in public, you're wearing a mask. So that makes a lot of sense. Then I guess the next logical step is you kind of promote, invest in kind of those products that you mentioned that are, the eye sets and the eyelashes and the skincare. Do you put a heavier marketing push into those products at this time?
It's tricky because, knowing that the trend is going to go into that, we're taking the approach that it's more important to tell our story as a brand. As an indie brand that's starting to emerge on more of a global stage, a lot of people don't know where we came from, what our core values are. So we feel that let's push the messaging about who we are and what we stand for, and let the trends out there, the beauty bloggers and the influencers, kind of drive the product mix as everybody navigates through this time. So I don't think that we're necessarily going to focus our marketing dollars on those sets per se, as much as we're going to focus on just, getting on top of every mountain and shouting out who we are and what we stand for.
Yep. So you mentioned, the challenge that Luxie Beauty encountered during this, time with physical retail. Obviously, department stores had to close their doors. Can you talk a little bit about how this time period may have caused Luxie Beauty to maybe reevaluate its wholesale business, and any changes there, or at least what is your thought going forward in that piece of the business?
I think that's a very good question, and kind of two elements, that are impacting my answer. The first one is that most indie brands or smaller brands that haven't really cut their teeth in retail think of retail as the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and often fail to recognize that starting a relationship with a retailer is not the finish line, it's the starting line. So I think that for Luxie, we've always been actively seeking out good retail relationships with larger retailers that really understand how to build a brand within their chain of stores, and we found that. So when these problems started to occur, the conversations that we were having in the company was, how do we help support our retailers? You know, they were struggling to move their in-store inventory to their distribution centers so that they could service their online orders. They needed to change their order patterns. And what we found is that the best use of our time during that period was to echo their own marketing material and drive people towards those sites. We were working really hard to create a presence within those online retail ecosystems, and did a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily think of with a brick and mortar retailer, like call the beauty advisors or set up tutorials with those beauty advisors, so that as people are making purchases, if they need to call customer service, the advisor or representative that they have contact with might have a free Luxie brush that they're able to speak to, might understand the brand and kind of the value proposition that we offer as a brand. And so I think that the kind of magnitude of retailers, it sort of changed into a real working partnership.
Yeah.
You know, hey guys, what do you need? What can we do? You know, the conversations about, okay, great, let's do that. We can sell it up through our channel. If you're having trouble through yours, what's going to work through your channel? Okay, we'll get you that product. You know, it became very collaborative. And I think that collaboration is really gonna be in effect for the long term. I don't see how any brand working with a retail partner can just kind of toss product over the transom and expect the retailer to move it and be successful. I think it's got to be, you got to be talking to your buyers, you got to be talking to your contacts, you can't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I want to do a training, I want to do this, I want to do that. And also you have to be receptive. You know, the people in these retail organizations, they're scrambling. So if they say, hey, I need this product, can you hit this price point? These are the product specs. This is the consumer that I think it's going to work for. And really working on that, and not try to, you know, I think there's a lot of brands out there, all the retailers are trying to, you know, have this different product strategy, and often forget that, you know, the retailers are working in the front line of this. You know, they're dealing with the consumers, and especially in beauty, where you have to rely on people touching and feeling your product. Like, that's the only platform that we have to really allow people to even see our product in real life without purchasing it. So I think that the retail place to play in. We love retail. We have great retail partners. We want to stay in retail and expand retail. We're expanding globally, and really love the wholesale business as a way to grow both the brand. We see our sales representatives that work for Macy's, work for whoever, as our brand ambassadors. I mean, we want them to love our product so much that that's how the positive image of Luxie is communicated to the end user. And so it's really that hand in glove kind of mentality of working together and
to your point, being
parties.
flexible and being agile and able to make decisions on the fly here as this situation evolved is a great takeaway from that. So then my final question, Conor, is kind of looking at your business and the kind of industry as a whole. We're seeing that more consumers are making purchase decisions based on the values and the kind of the activism of different brands and retailers. So tell us a little bit about kind of why corporate social responsibility is such an important part of the Luxie Beauty business, and then, you know, why it probably should be for all retailers and brands.
Well, I think that fundamentally, you know, most people are pretty good people. I know at Luxie, we have a corporate culture that sort of revolves around service and giving back to the community. And that's been kind of ingrained in Luxie since I've been installed as CEO. We've gone to women's shelters and donated. We've gone to the Second Harvest Food Bank. We've had the entire office, you know, basically shut down food donations to those in need. We also, as individuals, come together and talk about charities and different groups that we're involved in, so that, you know, we just as coworkers and teammates can understand like where somebody's priorities are. And of course, that trickles up into the organization. And so at Luxie, we have a very authentic presence in terms of what we're doing with organizations and activists types of organizations that we help out. We're one of the only beauty brands, at least the only beauty brand to my knowledge, that has a partnership with the World Wildlife Fund. We're incredibly concerned about plastics and water and endangered species, so we're working with them to give back there. We've been involved in a number of different, everything from to several others. And I think that consumers are looking for authenticity. And I think that the activism and social responsibility is a way of letting everybody know what you're into, and whether that's donating to the Academy of Sciences to help support scientific research, or the arts, or whatever it is that you as a corporate entity can feel like you can get behind. That's an important thing. And when they can't really figure out, how did the company start? Well, who are the people behind it? What does the company stand for? All of those question marks really add up. And I think that it's important for brands, retailers, and what kind of social responsibility programs they're implementing, and, engaging with their customers, with their consumers around those topics. I think that I love talking about whales. If somebody who's a Luxie fan is also a fan of pointing out a specific injustice that we feel that we need to help, use our platform to call attention to, we'll do that. So we really try to be as authentic as possible. And I think that for brands and retailers out there that are sort of only paying lip service to certain causes, I think that that's a very bad look. And I think consumers are really kind of aware of that and looking for that authentic brand, core values, social responsibility. And so I would stress that for retailers and other brands out there, don't feel pressure to conform to any one thing, but just search yourself and try to support things that, that speak to who you are as a culture, who you are as a team.
Yeah, and to your point, I think consumers can see through it if it's not authentic. And yep. You really don't want to be kind of this faceless, nameless brand. Tell your story and try to engage with consumers and find out what they're interested in as well.
Exactly.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Conor Riley, who is the CEO of luxury cosmetics company Luxie Beauty, for joining me today on Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Conor.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.